What's up, guys? It's Lunix again, or Lucid. I really don't understand where I'm going with the title of my name, but anyway, it's one of those two. Hello again. Welcome back to the Moon Lagoon After Dark. Mostly because it's nighttime and I don't want to wake anybody up, and also because I like talking about certain messages kind of with subdued lighting so that there's just a general ambiance of the message being the most important thing versus any visual cue. I wanted to talk a little bit today about love relationships, and it doesn't have to be like just like romantic. It can be familial, any kind of way that you want to view this or it resonates with you. I've noticed in most relationship dynamics that I've seen, be it like my own personal life or my friends or just people I've seen in stores, anything that I can pick up on really quickly, and usually it's really easy to sense this kind of energy, is that a lot of relationships today are being based out of a sense of control or like subconscious control versus being supportive or being trusting. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that most people in our generation or whatever age you are, it's probably like a long-standing kind of thing. A lot of people have trouble feeling vulnerable in romantic relationships or feeling like open, or that they have things that they haven't dealt with themselves or repressed trauma or things that are already not balanced with them themselves, that they seek to control someone else in order to feel less vulnerable or less unstable in their own personal feelings and emotions. I know a lot of people aren't necessarily going to be like, I probably shouldn't be in a relationship because I feel like I haven't dealt with this and this and that yet, and it wouldn't be responsible for me to do that. Most people don't care. They still will get into a relationship. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because there's this guy who came into my job the other day, and his girlfriend was walking around in there, and I'm guessing that they weren't getting along because she was really annoyed. She kept saying that she wasn't going to talk to him because he was drunk and he was acting a fool, etc. and so on, and I felt his energy. It felt really negative. And so every time he would come like talk to her, try and like get her to like have this argument with her, she would really clearly, like, it wasn't like she was just being like, oh no, stop. She was clear. She was like, can you please stop? I do not want to talk about this right now. I need some space from you, blah blah blah. And what he decided to do was start hugging her. And it wasn't like oh my god, I'm so sorry, please love me, hug me. It was just like he started hugging her like she didn't say anything, or like, oh, this is like fun, or like, oh, like you think that like that's gonna stop me kind of thing. And I really didn't like this, and I've seen it more than once where especially with like narcissists or just like people who don't have a healthy relationship with how they view love or emotions, will typically take a loving gesture and use that as a form of control. So usually a hug would be offered as something to be like a nice positive receiving energy, but instead he's using hugging her as a form of control over her. And I was just like, oh my god, why are people doing this? Why is this like a thing? And so I wanted to just kind of talk today, just in case anyone needs to hear this. Love should always support and be unconditional. It should never be mistrusting or controlling. And if you're in a relationship that is like that, maybe it's time to like actually have a real conversation with each other about like, I think I might still have some issues with trusting people, or I think I might be afraid to be vulnerable, and so that's why I feel like I need to control certain things, like, and it doesn't have to be obvious control. It can be like not responding at certain times, or it can be withholding certain emotions from the other person, or not wanting to share everything because you're afraid to be open and vulnerable because you're afraid you might get hurt. And unless you talk to your partner about how you're feeling, they will not understand that if that is how you're feeling. And then some people choose to withhold those things just as a form of control, and because they are like basically basically like malicious in their intent. Some people aren't out for your best interest, and it took me a long time to figure this out. And I've been in many scenarios where people have used controlling tactics on me and I'm aware of them, but I still didn't necessarily know what to do to stop it. You kind of just like either have to cut it off completely or confront them about this energy, but don't do it in a way where like you're coming from wanting to make them feel bad about it. Come to them and be like, hey, like, what's really going on? Can we like talk about this energy? I don't understand why this is happening, because there's always something underneath those actions, and it's probably repressed from childhood or just the way that they grew up seeing love relationships. There's a lot of things that people don't think that they need to like look over before they enter into love relationships. They like think, oh well, okay, they want to be with me and I want to be with them, the end. But I think that it's a more responsible approach to think about if you're actually ready to be in a romantic relationship with someone, or if you've even taken the time to really think about if you are open enough to really be vulnerable with somebody and trust somebody in a romantic relationship, or just in your family or friend wise. Like, there's a lot of tactics that I think most people have felt like they need to use because most people don't know how to be open and honest and vulnerable with one another. So instead of doing that, use controlling tactics so that you feel safe and so you don't like worry that you're gonna get hurt. But sometimes you're gonna get like, and I guess you don't necessarily have to get hurt, but there will be things that aren't going to be on your path. There will be relationships where it's supposed to be temporary, and when it's over, you can feel vulnerable about it, but it's all about your perspective on it. But if you're in a relationship and someone's using those loving gestures as a form of control, that's not healthy. And that is like, I felt so bad for her when she was in the store and this guy just kept doing that, because he's literally digging his energetic claws into her when he does that. It's reinforcing his energy onto her body. When you're in a relationship, your partner should want to support you. They should be able to trust you. They should not want to control you. You should feel free in a relationship. A relationship should not feel constricting. You should be able to go out and do things as individuals and then come back together and still feel like you don't have to be like, I wonder where they were they doing this, were they doing that. That clearly shows that there isn't some strong foundation within your relationship, and that you're not communicating with how you're feeling, or that you're not actually taking the time to reflect on where that's coming from. Because most of the time, it's not coming from the person that you're with, it's coming from something from the past. This is something that I've had to deal with, but not because of like all of my personal experiences. Like, I have had experiences personally where I was like, oh wow, that's really messed up that they did that to me, and I reflect on it and talk about it and get over it. But there have been times where I've just seen other people in relationships, and it happened countless times, where I'm like, so is this just something that happens in relationships, or is this something I should come to expect? You really have to take a step back and think about what it is that you want out of a romantic relationship, and if you feel that you can offer support unconditionally, and if you can offer that kind of love unconditionally and that trust unconditionally, because it's not always going to be the other person. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes you're going to be the one that is trying to control things, or trying to control your emotions, or how you give to the other person, because you want to be in a sense of control or power over, you're not going to hurt me before I hurt you, or you're not going to leave me before I leave you. That's not healthy. So definitely don't just reflect on if the other person is doing it to you. Reflect if you're doing it too. Especially like, I used to kind of have this thing where I would want to like be like, well, if they're not going to say this and this and that, then I'm not going to either. And that's like a power play. It's a control thing, and it's not a good way to think about your relationship. So I don't do that anymore. Now I'm just upfront and honest, and I'm like, well, if you don't feel that way, that's fine, but guess what? I feel this way, and I'm not going to be trying to like equal out your controlling energy with an equal controlling energy, because that doesn't get anyone anywhere. So I definitely just want people to think about if they really are offering unconditional love and support and trust to their partner, because that means that you're going to actually say what you mean. If your partner's like, hey, okay, I'm gonna go out with my friends, and you're like, oh, okay, I hope you have a good time, have fun. Don't say that, and in your head you're actually like, they better not go out and do this, or I'm gonna try and check their phone when they come back. Like, that isn't true. It just isn't a good foundation to build a relationship on. If they go out and you feel a little uncomfortable, like, I think I need to process some emotions that I'm feeling, because I have this feeling like I should be worried about you going out. That's something you should be able to speak to your partner on, because they can probably help you gain a different perspective of it, if your partner is also open to being like, well, can you think about where that would come from, or is there any situation from your past where you may have like had that happen, and so that's why it's coming up here between me and you, even though they're not the same person. You really have to see every relationship as a completely new entity, because that's what it is. Don't treat the person that you're with now based on the behaviors and actions of someone from the past, because that's not fair to that person who hasn't done anything wrong yet, that you're projecting an expectation of how they're going to be when you haven't even seen that yet. That's how you manifest those things into reality. I know I'm like kind of going in, but like I just don't understand entering into a romantic relationship and not being ready to love, support, and trust somebody unconditionally, because that's what love is. If you're not giving it unconditionally, then this is an opinion. if you're not giving it unconditionally, then I don't think that it's love, because love should be unconditional in its highest, purest form. So definitely think about sometimes too, if this energy is not just coming from that, like, that state of mind where you're like, oh, well, I'm saying these things because they sound good, or like, this is what I'm supposed to say, or this is what I've seen people say, or this is what I grew up seeing on TV, or this is what I saw in movies, or this and that. Really think about what it is that you want from a romantic relationship, what it is that you would want, what it is that you would want someone to provide to you. Because if you're expecting someone to provide all these things to you unconditionally, and then still come from that subconscious mindset that you're gonna receive that and not give it in kind, that's controlling. Just saying. Anyway, I guess that's just something that kind of drives me wild, because I see so many relationships where clearly there's someone who isn't being vulnerable, and I believe that without vulnerability in a relationship, you're not going to grow. Because if you and this other person are constantly putting on this like protection facade so that no one really knows how you're feeling on the inside, then that isn't an intimate relationship. That's not like going to be deep. It's gonna be like, I don't want to call relationships where people aren't sharing this stuff with one another shallow, but to me personally, my opinion is that if you're entering into a romantic relationship, it's so that you can find the deepest, most intimate way to love another person and to grow intimately with one another. It should be like the one relationship in your life where you really can show all that you are, where you really can say, these are the things in my life that really messed me up, but I've grown from them, or these are the things in my life that I'm still learning from, or these are the things in my life that I feel self-conscious about. These are things that make me feel vulnerable. Here they are. Can you help me learn and grow from them and love me anyway? If you can't do that with your partner, if you feel like, oh, I could never tell them this, I could never show them that, I could never, then there's only so much you can grow in that relationship before there's some point where you're like, unless some people are okay. Some people are going to go through this lifetime and not grow from those things. But for those of you who are really trying to find and manifest the one person that you really feel is going to help you connect for real. When I say connect for real, I mean like, how many times have you been in a relationship where you can sit down with somebody, like sit down on a couch and actually like just be like yourself all the way? There wasn't any like thinking about what you were gonna say, or like trying to present it in a certain way, or like have a prepared like response in your head. You really just were being yourself. You felt free, you felt young, you felt like a child, you felt like you could sigh, you could relax, like you could let go, like you weren't thinking about how you were sitting, how you were talking, you weren't thinking. And I feel like this is what separates it for me when something is authentic or not. If I still have to think about how I'm presenting myself or how I'm saying or doing certain things, then that means I'm not comfortable. And if I'm not comfortable, that means I'm not vulnerable. And if I'm not vulnerable, that means I'm not being honest. And if I'm not being honest, that means I can't grow from whatever it is I'm sharing with you. This is my opinion. Remember this, please, as I'm talking. And if you really, like, this is something I'm looking for. And I'm not trying to, like, say, like, this is what I consider unconditional love, is when you can do that, when you can just sit and talk to somebody about something real. It isn't always like, oh, when I go see my partner, we go out and we're like on social media the whole time, or on our phones the whole time, and we take pictures and we buy things and we consume. I feel like in a true relationship where you're supposed to be growing with one another, in a romantic or however you want to call it, you should be doing things deeper than that. And I think it's interesting now because this is like the longest I've been single, and I know that sounds really weird. You're like, I don't know how long you've been single for, but basically I was in my first like real romantic relationship when I was like 19, and then there was like 3 months, 6 months, was it 6 months? I think it was like 6 months between that relationship and then my last relationship I was just in. And now I've been single for 11 months. Oh my god, almost a year. And it still didn't even feel like 11 months because there were still a lot of attachments to me in that time. But I think spending so much time not being in a relationship, I've been able to take a different type of view on relationships where I've just been observing other people's relationships, and I've seen a lot where people aren't like, I just don't feel like they're bonding. Like they're both on their phones, or they're both not engaged with one another, and they're not having any talks that are supposed to help heal anything or grow, or like they're not being creative together. Like that's like not something I want. And I think maybe I really needed to spend some time out of a relationship in order to see this, which is why I recommend spending some time single at some point in your life. A lot of us just hop to and fro, but spending this time has really helped me be able to determine what it is I really want and don't want by observing all these other people in relationships, being like, yeah, I don't want that. That's not what I need. So, just maybe take some time to think about what it is that you want in a relationship or what you're looking for, and if the person that you're with is being vulnerable and open with you, or if you even care, and then think about if you're being open and vulnerable with them, and if you care to do that, and if you think it's important, if you think that that is what is unconditional love to you. Write down those things that you consider examples of unconditional love in your life and see if you're getting them, and if not, see if you can add them in there. See if you can try and be vulnerable, see if you can try and be open, and if you feel like you can't be vulnerable or open, find where that's coming from. Go back to whatever moment, middle school, high school, elementary school, like on the playground, on the school bus, wherever it was. Find that moment where you decided that you no longer could trust people, or you felt vulnerable to open yourself up to other people because of a bad experience, and recognize that that is an isolated incident, or wherever those events happened, they aren't happening now and they don't have to continue to happen. You can change that. So I hope you take some time. I know that you're probably like, well, if you're still watching this, then I commend you, because I've been ranting basically. Not ranting really, but it's not one of those videos where like there's like little fun images popping up, or I have like little memes, or you know, like the typical YouTube stuff that people are interested in seeing. So if you're still watching this, then I hope you really got something out of it, and that you take some time to think about control, trust, vulnerability, unconditional love in your relationships, and if you're getting the things that you want, and if you're going to take some time to try and be open and vulnerable with the people around you, because it does make a difference, and you can tell when you do it. It feels so real to just be real with somebody, and you don't realize how often that's not happening until you decide to just be yourself around someone. It feels different for real, I'm not kidding you. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. I hope that you liked it. If you did, hit a like. Maybe I would definitely love to see some comments from other people if you watch this, about if you feel like that you've noticed these patterns in other people or in your own relationships, or just little scenarios or questions or whatever. And I will see you guys next time on the Moon Lagoon. Okay, I think I'm gonna go now. Alright, peace and love. Peace and love, guys. Unconditional.